What is up, guys? So this is going to be my first Arrow review of 2018, being Arrow Season 6, Episode 10, titled Divided. With that in mind, let's get into the review. So with Episode 9 ending on Team Arrow splitting in two, and the episode called Divided, this episode was bound to focus around the team Divided, as in original Team Arrow, and then also the new recruits, being two separate teams, and we see that the new recruits are creating their own team. What will it be called? Probably nothing. It probably won't even get a name. Maybe they'll hint at the Terrifics, because that's a new team that DC is making right now in the comics, and Mr. Terrific is on that team, so maybe they'll hint at that, but I doubt they'll ever get an official name. But while in Episode 9, I think that they handled the divide really badly. It was pretty forced how Oliver just didn't trust any of them and then spied on them and not on the original Team Arrow. It was pretty forced. But this episode, I feel, handled it much, much better because they actually talked over their differences. Like, Curtis actually met with them 3 times this episode. That didn't make them feel that divided, so they talked over their differences. Wild Dog and Black Canary as well, and that just makes it more realistic than Oliver only putting surveillance on those 3, and they just get accused, and the original Team Arrow doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. But in this episode, they handled it a lot better. Specifically, Diggle arguing with Oliver on whether or not they should trust the new recruits. Diggle saying that even though they broke their trust a little bit, they should forgive him because Oliver's outnumbered right now in the field and they need their team. And also, the fact that Diggle actually addressed the fact that he and Oliver both lied to each other. Oliver joined the League of Assassins in Season 3, and Diggle lied to him about his brain, his nerve damage, and his tremor here in Season 6. And also, they didn't address this, but Felicity did betray them in Season 5. So the fact that Diggle addressed those things is actually really, really awesome, because that's something I've been mentioning. I've been mentioning the fact that there's no reason Oliver should trust original Team Arrow over the new recruits, because everyone on original Team Arrow has betrayed him in the past, and he himself has betrayed them in the past. So why are the new recruits getting kicked off the team when Oliver didn't kick Diggle or Felicity off the team, and Oliver himself didn't get kicked off the team? He was invited back in Season 4 after he joined the League of Assassins. So I like that they addressed that, but on the other hand, the fact that they know that they addressed that and they did it anyway kind of doesn't make any sense. But I guess Oliver explained it by saying that he was only thinking about himself and thinking that he kicked Wild Dog off the team because he was thinking that Wild Dog is taking him away from his son, which makes sense, definitely makes sense, and I like the fact that Diggle addressed this. And also in Episode 9, Oliver was really a dick to the new recruits being Curtis, Renee, and Dinah. He was such a dick, but in this episode, like I just said, where he explained how he felt like Wild Dog was taking him away from William, it really humanized his decision to kick him off the team last episode, which, again, Episode 9 totally did not explain, and I'm glad that Episode 10 explained it, but it doesn't help Episode 9, because Episode 9 itself didn't explain it. But again, Episode 10 did, and that's definitely a good thing. It humanizes his decision. It makes Oliver sort of less of a dick to the new recruit, specifically Wild Dog. We see him, for the first time, confront the Criminal Cabal, or we see the first time in this episode, Green Arrow versus the Criminal Cabal. And I'll talk about that fight scene in a second, but before that, I actually really like the Criminal Cabal in this episode. Oliver actually felt overwhelmed. I was scared that with 5 seasons over, we had so many villains, and I felt like the Criminal Cabal couldn't stand up to them. I felt like they were going to be just way easier, but seeing Oliver in the field right here, and Vigilante, Anatoly, Ricardo Diaz, Black Siren, and Cayden James surrounding him with the Bratva and Ricardo Diaz's people, or criminal organization, he actually felt like he was overwhelmed in the field over there, and he needs his team, and that's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm going to talk about that fight scene where Oliver, or the Green Arrow, fought all those Bratva members, and also Ricardo Diaz's organization, and then ended up fighting Vigilante in the end. That was an amazing fight scene. We haven't seen something like that from the Green Arrow since episode 2 of this season. We saw an awesome fight scene from Deathstroke in episode 5 or 6, I don't remember which one it was, but we have not seen a Green Arrow fight scene like this since episode 2. We saw one in episode 1 in the bunker, in episode 2 in that kitchen with the rest of the team, but we haven't seen something like this in a while, and I really, really missed it. This scene was amazing. It was probably the best fight scene of this season, maybe even better than the Deathstroke one. That's debatable, but it's so good. It was exciting. It was realistic, honestly. It was really well choreographed. It was just an awesome fight scene, and it's a fight scene that I really missed. We had so many episodes of nothingness from Green Arrow himself. We had those 3 episodes where Diggle was the Green Arrow. Then we had one episode in episode 7 that I don't think he had any fight scenes. Then we had the crossover, which he had fight scenes, but they had to save the budget for the rest of the crossover, so nothing really that special. And then in episode 9, I don't remember any fight scenes with Green Arrow. But here in episode 10, we have possibly the best Green Arrow fight scene ever. And I'm not saying that lightly. He's had a lot of great fight scenes. But this one was probably the most well-choreographed, exciting fight scene the Green Arrow has ever had. There were a lot of hints and references to the future of this show, specifically an Arrow Civil War, a Black Siren Redemption arc, Huntress coming back, and also there was a Batman reference, which I don't think I'll include. I don't think I'll make a whole new video for that because it was such a small reference that I'll include it in my next Batman references video, but I'm not going to make a new one until the next big Batman reference. But the Huntress reference was that she was actually mentioned multiple times in this episode because we had her cousin, I don't remember his name, but Bertinelli mentioned that his cousin, he's naming something, I think a boat after his cousin, named the Huntress, and Oliver told him to call his cousin, aka the Huntress. And that's a little bit of foreshadowing because the Huntress, I'm pretty sure, will return in the back half of season 6. So that's a bit of foreshadowing that I really like. By the way, if you missed the Batman reference was that the Huntress's cousin, the Bertinelli guy, told Oliver that he's a hard man to reach and he should probably get a signal in the sky with an arrow in it, or an arrow symbol. That's obviously a reference to the bat signal, which is obviously a reference to Batman, which is cool, but I'm not going to make a video about it. Now, there were more hints to the rest of the season, specifically the Arrow Civil War, the Team Arrow Civil War, and the Black Siren Redemption arc, although not big ones. The Team Arrow Civil War references and hints were things I already talked about in trailer breakdowns, and the Black Siren Redemption arc wasn't a big one. It was just Quentin saying that he saw his daughter in Black Siren's eyes, which I actually talked about that in a previous trailer breakdown as well yesterday. So that was a big one of the trailer breakdown, but we already saw that in the trailer. So I don't really need to talk about that any more than I just did. Something that really bugs me about this episode, and it's been going on for the season in general, Diggle's nerve damage has been completely healed by Curtis's stupid chip that just saves everyone from injury and makes it so that that Team Arrow never has to suffer or deal with real mortal injuries like Felicity getting paralyzed or Diggle having a tremor with nerve damage in his hand. Now that Curtis has that chip that can cure everyone from anything, what is the point of watching this show, honestly? This completely takes away from any of the tension that we ever had on the Lee and Yu explosion. We had the only real thing we got from that is Samantha died. Thea was in a coma, but now she's out. Everything's fine. Diggle had nerve damage, but that's cured. They cured nerve damage on this show. The only consequence of that explosion was that Samantha died, which is ridiculous. That's so stupid. Why would they do this? They took all consequences except for that out of that explosion with this miracle chip that Curtis, for some reason, has to heal Diggle. I was really hoping that Diggle would actually retire as a vigilante because of this nerve damage, because in real life, most of the time you can't cure nerve damage unless it's like a really small one that you don't really need to deal with. Now, I would have loved it if Diggle actually had to deal with that and decided to retire as a vigilante because of that, which would have been awesome. But now he's completely cured, and it takes away from all the tension these shows will ever have, because they can be cured. If somebody breaks his arm, cure that in a second. Somebody loses his foot, cure that in a second. Somebody gets his head chopped off, Curtis has a chip for that. It's ridiculous. But honestly, that's probably the only thing I didn't like about this episode, because this episode, for the most part, was really great. Other than the Curtis fixing Diggle's tremor, everything about it was great. They handled the divide of Team Arrow so much better than they did in episode 9. They had this amazing fight scene. The criminal Cabal was honestly really threatening, especially with Oliver in the field alone. I'm betting when Diggle comes with him on the field in episode 11, they'll be a little less threatening than Oliver alone versus them. But still, they were threatening in this episode. I love the references to Batman and the Huntress and the hints towards Civil War and Black Siren Redemption arc, and that Diggle addressed the fact that he and Oliver both lied to each other. This episode was honestly really great, other than the Curtis fixing Diggle's tremor thing, which I wouldn't say is a nitpick. I would say that's actually a pretty big problem. It takes away any consequences from the show. That's a huge problem. But other than that, this episode was really great, which is why I'll give Arrow Season 6, Episode 10, titled Divided, a 9.3 out of 10. So let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below, and vote in the top right corner of the video in a poll. I totally forgot to mention that in my last couple of reviews, and I totally forgot to add the poll to the Flash, Black Lightning, and Supergirl reviews, because it's been a while since I've made reviews. It's been like a month, so I totally forgot that I did those polls, but now I do. I have all the polls on all those episodes, so if you want, you can go back to those episodes and vote on that poll, and also vote on this poll in the top right corner of the video. Also, let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.